What's up, everybody? Welcome to Exam Prep Night. My name is Paul Abernathy, if you don't know who I am. I'm with Electrical Code Academy Incorporated, as well as now also the Electricians Academy, which you haven't been seeing me flooding YouTube with here recently. Mindy goes, Paul Abernathy for president. No way. They don't pay enough for me to have that job. I'm sorry. It doesn't say what I get paid. I'm just saying. There's no way I'd want to be president with the crap that they have to go through. Ain't no way. Anyway, thanks for coming tonight and joining me. You might see some things are a little different tonight than they have been in the past. Kind of a different look. So hopefully you'll like that. If you feel free to give any feedback on that, if you kind of like the new looks or whatever, as we're doing some things different. Also, I'm hoping that many of you that for the exam prep, many of you are joining us on Saturday night with Jay. He's doing a great job. He's bringing a lot to the team. Again, I have so much on my plate, and so does he. But coming up with some interesting topics, and I believe what we're going to have this Saturday is going to be pretty neat. We're going to talk about utility distribution from the point of generation all the way to the house. And that's going to be part one. That'll be this week's. And then, of course, the following week will be part two. And that is what happens when we do, once we're at the home, and we'll use homes, but it'll be generic. And then we talk about service upgrades, all the things you have to take into consideration, timing, planning, what local jurisdictions may require, all that kind of stuff we'll talk about in those episodes. So it's a two-part series. Now, I will tell you it will be recorded because I am going on vacation Saturday. Whoop, whoop. Finally going to have a vacation. And again, I'm going from Saturday to Sunday, so it's 2 Saturdays that we'll miss. So it will be recorded, but we will be recording it. Me and Jay will be doing it live between me and him, but it'll be replay. And of course, as always, we're probably in the chat area commenting on it. So if you do have questions, you feel free to ask them in the chat, and of course we will comment on them. All right. Before I get started, you might have noticed something on our YouTube channel that we now have underneath it some of our products that are available over at our store. Things like our stickers. Some neat. There's a Tesla sticker. This is a Tesla sticker. It's a little smaller. Then you got the Electrician Live one, but good. We got the Wizard and the Skull Mafia, the what is it? God Code. Was it God Code? God Family in Code. We got that sticker. Electrician Lives Matter. We have that sticker and shirts and everything. So check it out. Mugs. Everybody seems to be buying the mugs lately, but they're available in all kinds of colors. Jay always sports one when he's doing the Electrician Live on Saturday nights. Cool. We still have it running as well. If you want to make a donation here, that little $sign on the chat feature, you can do a donation of $5 or greater, and you'll get in the drawing for one of these little screwdrivers. Or you could choose the flashlight. It's your choice. It's got magnets on it. Whatever. That again is a thank you rather than people that like to donate. At least you get something for your donation. So, but the screwdriver's are actually pretty nice. I use them for the glasses too. So there's 8 bits in here. Pretty cool. All right. Anyway, enough of the selling stuff. Again, if you want to find out more about the shirts, the stickers, phone cases. I don't know if I've ever shown y'all this. That's not a sticker. Okay, that's actually a phone case for my Note 9. And of course, being a master electrician, I want to show my pride. So again, it's a pretty neat little case. So that's not a sticker. That's actually printed on the case. We have them for Androids and iPhones, all the newest models. This is a Note 9, by the way. So cool. Just swag, whatever. All right. So tonight we're going to talk about some exam prep stuff. We're going to look at some examples again. Hopefully you've got your code book. I have got my code book with me. And the only difference between my code book and your code book is, one, when I'm teaching the 2020 code for a while, at least usually the first year, I don't tab it out. But if you're preparing for an exam, I would tab it out. Tonight we're going to be talking about 2020 code, but again, all of the questions that I'm going to give you are also going to be in our programs now. When you get the 2020 code, it also shows you the 2017 as well. So it gives you both code references. Again, we're going to be looking at the Fast Tracks program. Anybody that doesn't know what the Fast Tracks program is by now, you need to go over to masterthenec.com and check it out. Okay. So got all our courses there. And of course, if you're already licensed and you just want to take your game to the next level, or you want to hone your skills quickly, you don't wait forever to get proficient in the residential or commercial or industrial. I was actually working with a student today in an industrial program, and I tell you what, I'm kind of amazed all the stuff, even talks harmonics. There's a neat section there on harmonics that's in the industrial section, the industrial wiring course that we have. It's pretty intense. Of course, if you do the bundle, you get access to all of them, so you can do them for 2 years. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Now, a couple things that I will tell you, because Matthew brings it up, and I will bring it up as well. So I'll give you some tips before we get started. When you're preparing for your exam and you go to take your exam, I mean, this is going to sound like some cliche stuff here, but I'm going to cover it anyway. Because I do these things every week or every other week, so I want to make sure you get some advice. And feel free to ask questions. You can see I changed the format, so you can see everything right on the screen, or you can see it in your own little chat box, whatever. Calculator. Make sure your calculator is a dual function. Make sure it's both a solar and battery powered. Okay, I'm going to make that recommendation to you. Go with what you got. Okay, for example, in here, this is just a solar one, but again, I'm not taking an exam. If I was, it would be a solar and a battery. Okay, so I would just always make that. Last thing you want is during the exam to have that sucker go out on you, right? Don't want that. So that's that. And talk a little bit about your code book, okay? Because I have 2 code books here. I'll show y'all here. Hold on. I've got my 2017 code book, and you'll notice that it's all tabbed out. I'm a believer in tabs. I'm not a believer in over tabs. I'm not a believer in putting tabs all down the side and then all across the top, and then there's some across the bottom. Now, people are selling code books for $300 and $400 that are already highlighted and that are already tabbed. Listen, folks, don't waste your money. That's a shortcut way. It's a quick way to failure, okay? Your only way you're going to get good in the National Electrical Code is to do what? It's to study. The only way you're going to learn it is to get your head in this thing. This is not the easiest document to understand. A lot of the questions, even some of them in our Fast Tracks program, I find problems with them all the time, but I don't write those questions. I just submit them and say, you probably should change this for the next cycle. And there's a lot of great ones in there, but every now and then you get this bonehead question, okay? I do not like code books that are pre-tabbed because I did not go on that journey to tab them myself. Okay? And there's a right way and a wrong way to tab them. Trust me, read the instructions. Okay? Please read the instructions. Okay? Because if your code tabs are all over the place and it looks all wonky, it's going to be more trouble for you than it needs to be. All right, so I believe in tabs, but let me tell you what, people ask me all the time, is there I'm going to give a shout out to everybody in a minute, but people say, is there a better tab versus another? Not really. I like the tabs, easy tabs, because of the colors, but they're not significant to me that, ooh, I remember that green is this or yellow is this. It just looks pretty, and I like a pretty book, okay? Anyway, no, it's not true, but it doesn't really matter. The only difference is the little white ones, sometimes it gets just kind of blends in and it takes an extra couple seconds, and they're usually small, so there's not a lot of wording on them. These are pretty good. These are easy tabs, and I like easy tabs. They're just no preference, but I like them. So I do this for everybody that's preparing for an exam. Tab it, but don't get involved in somebody telling you need all these other funky tabs. It is just going to screw you up, and I've done this. And I'll also tell you, there's people out there that copy exactly what I do, and they have no clue what they're talking about. I'm just saying. All right, look, I'm not saying I know more than they do, but look, don't buy the quick fix 24-hour, 48-hour crash course hype to understand the National Electrical Code. Now, look, if you only care about passing your exam and you don't give a darn about really learning the code, do whatever. Spend your money. It's your money. Spend it how you want to use it. Okay, what's that commercial? It's my money. I want it when I need it, or whatever that is. But if you want to retain it, there's no substitute. There's no substitute for digging in here. And that's why we do these classes, and that's why I put code questions on the screen so that you can take your time and look them up. It's not for my benefit. I've got my licenses. I want you to get yours, and I want you to succeed. Okay, so buy the tabs, put them on there, follow the instructions. Next tip. Somebody in my household has COVID, and so I'm afraid I'm going to get COVID and die. So I've got to educate as many people as I can before I die. Yes, so we have COVID in this house. All right, so it's a scary thing. All right, now, 2020 code book. 2020 code book, for 1 year, I do not tab. Why do I do it? Because I'm an educator, and I want to get used to using the code references at the top and quickly honing my way, especially when I tell students when you're starting out, it's sometimes easier to not tab. So it can get confusing, but I'm going to make a statement right now. If you're preparing for an exam, tab it. I don't, because for a specific reason, for at least about a year, I don't tab because I'm working with this code book a lot, and the tabs break off for me. So I just hold off until I'm writing stuff. I've got a lot of proposals we're writing for the 2023, so I'm in here a lot, flipping, and it's just my practice. You're preparing for an exam, tab it. Now, you'll have somebody come along and say, nah, I'm not against tabbing. Okay, don't tab. It's your opinion. Enjoy it. Me, I'm taking an exam, I'm tabbing. Only because it helps me get to places a little quicker. All right, I got my code book because we're going to do code tonight. All right, so, and the only difference between my 2020 code book again and yours is I got awesome stickers on there and you don't. How about that? All right, next is highlighting. I am a believer in highlighting, but I am not a believer in over highlighting. Okay? When I go, you don't see a whole lot of highlighting in this book. Okay? But when you do see some highlighting, and I know you can't see it because of the screen, you'll see there, I'll tip it down. See how minimal I've highlighted there? Because there's how many years have you been in the trade? I saw that question in there. Okay. 31 years. All right. Now, I've answered that one, and I didn't have to type it. I just told you. Now, what was I at? Oh, highlighting. Many people go in there and they literally highlight the entire paragraph or the entire code section. Remember, when it comes to exams, they're going to ask you questions based on the hot topic items of the paragraph. So for example, if I'm doing non-metallic sheath cable and I'm securing and supporting it, it's going to be 334.30. Remember, .30 is a tip to remember. It's not a quick scheme. It's just most of the wiring methods you're going to have .30 is going to be securing and supporting. So if I had a question on an exam that said non-metallic sheath cable and it was a securing and supporting question, then I would know that it's .30, section 30 of 334. So you'll learn those things as you work through it. It just saves you some time, in doing all that. You can go to the back of the index and see non-metallic sheath cable, and go down to securing and supporting. It'll send you to .30 anyway. So you could do that. But you'll learn little things over time. Hold on for a second. Sorry, my dog was going crazy. All right. So highlight the important parts. Okay. So securing and supporting, I'm going to highlight the 4.5 feet. I'm going to highlight the header on it, securing and supporting. I'm going to highlight the within 12 inches of a box. That's the stuff that's on exams. They're looking for 12 inches, 4.5 feet, things like that. That's going to draw my attention. If you over highlight, then everything just blends together and you will just skip right over it. I want the highlights to draw my attention. So even though I might want something in the entire body of 334.30 for securing and supporting for some reason, if I highlight the important parts, then it draws my attention to those points. And then I get to refocus, because you've heard me talk about before things called bold scanning, right? This is not new. I'm going to be copied forever, but these concepts of bold scanning is where we're looking for certain terms, certain trigger words, and then we find it, and then we start analyzing those bold terminologies, or sometimes we can even use the answers in the question. Okay, so an example of a question, it was securing and supporting for non-metallic sheath cable, for example. The answers are going to have 4.5 feet, 5 feet, 6 feet, whatever. Well, use the answers, and when you go to the question, it's going to draw your attention to it. So again, tip of the day, it is not it's not a badge of honor when your whole code book looks like a highlighter. Okay? You don't need to highlight all that much. Now you got to highlight, okay? But not all that much. And so if you watch sometimes when I do some training, if you watch some of my videos, and hopefully you are, that you watch some of the videos, that you'll notice that when I go highlight it on the electronic edition online, that I only highlight certain pieces. And that's exactly how I would do it in my code book, okay? Because when I get there, I want it to draw my attention. If I've seen people's code books with almost the whole page highlighted, how in the world does anything stand out to you when you're in a stressful environment in an exam? Where you do that? I don't understand. Ernesto, one place you can buy the code books is go to my website, or go to, I don't sell code books, but I got a really good link for a good value on code books. Just go to the electricianlive.com website, electricianlive.com website, and there's a link up there that talks about Paul's picks. In there, I researched some of the better Amazon places for it. But you can buy them at your local electrical supply house. You can buy them straight from NFPA if you want. I don't sell code books because I don't get into that with the selling of those kind of books. All right. But you can get them all over the place. Like I said, I do most of my stuff from Amazon. Just be careful. If you buy something on Amazon and it looks too good to be true, like a code book that every one of the other ones are like $120 and you see one for $40, don't fall for that. That's usually an incomplete copy that somebody's made and it's pirated and it's just a garbage. Okay? You're going to have to pay for quality. Okay? Just look at what the average prices are and just buy it. I mean, this is your tool. Nobody would even complain about buying a nice tool for $200, $300 from Milwaukee or DeWalt. You should not complain about spending $120, $130, whatever it is for a good code book. I'm just saying. This is your tool. This is your tool, okay? You're going to use this probably more than you use some tools. All right. Okay, so that's my opening tips, okay? So, again, don't get highlighter crazy. Don't get over tabby crazy, okay? All right. Now, also, let's talk about a proper study plan before we look at questions, okay? How are you studying? I get people who I had a guy that contacted me just the other night, and his response to me was, he's already knows the code, and he wants to study, and he doesn't feel like he's going to get value out of a program, one of our programs, fast track program. I'm like, well, don't buy it. I don't want you to buy anything you don't feel like you're going to get a value out of. And if you already know the code, what do you need me for? What do you need our programs for? Our programs are designed to teach you the code, and hopefully you'll not skip units because you think you know it, because you'll find out there's a lot you don't. And I usually find that out in our fast tracks program when people get to about unit 8, 9, and 10, 11, then I really start to know what somebody really knows, because there's common questions in there that you really should learn how to do. Okay. So again, there's no shortcuts putting in the time. Okay. So anyway, he asked me what value is going to get out of it. And I said, well, do you have to pass the exam or not? I mean, what value? For me, it's my livelihood. So it's of urgency to me. So when people ask me how you should be practicing, here's what I tell people. And you've heard me say this before, so I won't belabor it here. I believe that you have to do a 90-day or a 60-day, even though, for example, our courses are available for a year, 365 days. You might be studying with an online resource. You might have books from somewhere else. You might have your own study material, whatever it is. I am a firm believer that you need 60 to 90 days to fully, and I mean immersed study. Okay? And what that means is, that's Elwood. Yeah, to be honest with you, I never stopped studying. I've been studying for 30 years now, and I'm still in this code all the time. There is always something in there that I look at it and shake my head and go, you know. The interesting thing about the Fast Tracks program is it's got electronic flashcards. And I'll talk about that tip in a minute to do the manual flashcards. Thanks for reminding me, Elwood, on that, because you've probably heard me talk about that over and over again. So anyway, in a 90-day program, to do it properly for 90 days, you need to dedicate 2 days a week. 2 days a week of 4 hours of dedicated study, not with the kids yelling, not with the wife yelling, not that they yell, I'm just saying, away to yourself. If you're in our program, for example, you put the headphones on and you can do the ballistic version, whereas actually we'll read it to you while you read it, and that's a better way to get it. But if you want to read it, you need to be in a quiet place, because you know what? Code is technical. Code puts people to sleep. You want to go to sleep, and you want to stop taking sleep medicine and you can't sleep at night. When you feel a little bit groggy, but you can't go to sleep, grab your code book and sit in the bed and start reading the code book. Sure as heck, within 20 minutes, you're asleep. And it's not that this book's not interesting. Well, it's probably not. It's a boring read sometimes, but it's just, it's just hard to stay engaged in it. And a lot of times people will read it, and if you have a problem that a lot of my students have, and I even had it, I mean, I'm no different. When I first started out in this industry back in the early 80s, I had an issue called reading comprehension. And I've gotten better at it over the years as I've learned code. But reading comprehension, whereas I can read a paragraph, and then after it's over and you've read the paragraph, you look at it and you go, what the hell did I just read? And if you have ever done that, guess what? You've got reading comprehension issues. Well, we can battle that. We can fix that by breaking it down piece by piece. And that's what we do in the fast track with that ballistic training. It just seems to work. I'll be often copied, often duplicated. I'm sure there's people that are doing it today, but I don't know anybody that talked about that beforehand. So it's a way to tickle the senses. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so 90 days, 2 times a week, 4 hours. Now, you come to me and you say, Paul, I don't have 90 days. I got 60 days, 2 months. Then I say, okay, you need to do it 3 times a week for 4 hours. Dedicated. Okay? I mean dedicated for 4 hours. Not on and off here, there. 4 hours of you immersed in this code. Whether it's online program of ours or in your code book, you need to put the 4 hours dedicated. Brings me to the next point. When I said do it in your code book, you've heard me say this over and over again. The philosophy of education for electrical exam preparation is following a plan, following a structure, okay? If you sit down and you plan on spending those 4 hours just flipping through this code book, randomly thinking you're going to read something and lock it in your brain, you are mistaken. It just doesn't work that way. It's not me trying to sell a program. It's what I do for a living, but I give a lot of free stuff away, and I'm giving you these tidbits, okay? It ain't working. Now, you might stumble and pass your exam. Good for you. But when you get out in the field, you're going to be sending me text messages and emails and other people and other educators questions that you want answered, when if you had a really focused, you can answer those questions yourself. Not that I don't mind helping. I love helping people. I don't mind it. But I always use that analogy, and you've heard it. Give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Teach a man how to fish, he eats for a lifetime. It's exactly the way it is for code. I know that's cliche as heck, but it is a reality. Okay? It is the reality. Now, every state's different. I also fall into this thing where people will send me and say, well, not in our state, not in our state. Listen, people, I'm an educator talking to people in 50 states. 50 states. So I can't comment on every state. I don't know what you do in your state. I don't know what they allow in that state. I don't know what they allow in that state. They might let your code book come tabbed in this state, or highlighted in this state, or underlined in this state, or stickers in this state, or code formulas in this state. They let you write in the front. I don't know. I don't spend my time worrying about that. That's your job. Your job is to learn what's allowed in your state. It's not my job. It's your job. I will show you. Texas, they allow you to write in their code book, and you can see these formulas all in the code book. This is the one I've taught with for years, so this is what I teach in a class. Here is all the formulas, and I go over these formulas with my students. We have what's called formula. It's 3 hours of my training sessions that I go over all these formulas and explain how they work. Not all states allow that. Some states, you go take a test, they will make you use their book. It's got no relevance to how you study. Okay? I still like you highlighting. I still like you tabbing, because that causes you to get repetitious in what you do. When you make an action to do something, whether it's highlight it, underline it, or whatever, it's a cause to action. Reading something and then trying to retain it is pointless. Having a reason to do something or studying with a purpose, that's golden. Okay? Golden. So, always study with a purpose. So whether you use our program or you use free ones online or books that you buy, next it takes me to why you don't go in a book and just flip it. You got to study with a purpose. And when I say that, I mean you need good code questions. Now, if you're not going to do a course like ours, the Fast Tracks, where you actually are reading material and it's talking about codes and discussions and you learn it because of the reading material, okay. But what if you have a good set of code questions? And I tell you, good ones or bad are still code questions, because if you can identify it's a bad question, that's a pretty good, you've done pretty good if you can do that, right? So don't worry about whether they're great questions or good or bad. It's the fact that you have to look things up. That's what makes you better with the code. Remember, on an exam, you're sitting there with a computer and your code book, whether it's yours or they give you one, and your job is to answer those questions. Now, the benefit of a program like our Fast Tracks is because you go over so many things in the program that when you sit down to take that exam, a lot of the stuff will just come to you. And that means you buys you time during an exam, because you don't have to spend time looking things up. That's a benefit, okay? And our programs are logically formatted in each unit to teach you things that are likely to be on an exam, plus things you need to know anyway. Whereas random studying in a book, you're not going to retain it. You're just not. Now, you might know enough to pass an exam, but you're not going to retain it. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so study with a purpose. Get you some questions. Make sure you look those questions up. Take your time on a question, okay? Because you want to spend that time looking it up, finding the root of it, things that might be in the back of the index, what led you here, what led you there. Really spend, when I tell people, if you spend $150 on a book of questions, I want to get my money's worth out of every question. So determine how much it is per question and spend that much time on that on that question. Because again, it's all about looking it up. Okay? There's no magic to it. You're never going to memorize this whole book. It's not, what would be the point? Okay? All right. Next. So you're studying with a purpose. You got your plan in place. You're putting your time in. Next, understanding that you need to know what articles are what popular tables are what are the more popular ones. You need to create what's called flashcards. Now, if you're in our Fast Tracks program, they're electronic and you can make endless numbers of flashcards. I tell people to do them all on every article, do them on every major table. Okay, for equipment grounded conductors, 250-122, the grounded conductor and neutral conductor sizing, 250-102C, short circuit ground fault protection for motors, 430.52. I create flashcards for almost everything so that when you're done a lesson, you can go in and do 15 or 20 flashcards. I want to be able to know that 210 is branch circuits. I want to know that 225 is outside branch circuits, and 225 is feeders outside and branch circuits outside. I want to know that 215 is feeders. I want to know that 430 is motors. I want to know 500 is hazardous locations. I want to know. Okay? I want to know. And again, as Elwood says, definitions. People have heard me say this all the time. Don't take a definition for granted. One great example of this would be a dry location. A dry location is a location that's obviously not a wet or a damp location. However, it does state that under certain conditions, a dry location type product can be subject to moderate degrees of dampness and moisture, like under construction. It doesn't change the fact that wherever you're putting this wire or cable, ultimately it's going to be in a dry location. Okay? But if you didn't understand dry location rules, you might say, well, wait a minute, I'm building a building and there's a roof on it and I'm using non-metallic sheath cable, but some rain gets on the sheathing. Is some Yahoo going to come and tell me I got to rip it out? In reality, it says, wait a minute, that's still a dry location. It's just under conditions of construction, for example, where it's subject to wetness or dampness, not long term. It's still a dry location. I'd be more concerned with the insulation that gets wet, the wood that gets wet and all that than I would about some water getting on the sheathing of a non-metallic sheath cable. You know what I'm saying? Definitions are key. It also keeps you, and the other thing to remember, scopes. Before you start answering, hey, Mark, welcome to the stream. Before you start answering questions and you're looking things up in the code, and I say this all the time when I'm giving people advice, and I get literally, I don't want to gauge thousands of calls a year and texts, and some of you might have even contacted me with questions. Always read the scope so that you know that you're in the right article, that you know you're in the right location. I don't know how many times people have done something, spend a lot of time on something, and it wasn't even in the scope of what they're looking at. So don't waste your time. Get into a rhythm, okay? Make it habitual and do the same process all the time, okay? And how you dissect a question, okay? So flashcards, make them, get them cheap. You can go to a dollar store, Dollar General store, Walmart, whatever, get a pack of 500. You want to do it? On one side, write Article 210. On the other side, branch circuits. Do it for tables. Do a table, 250, 122. And on the other side, equipment grounded conductor sizing. Whatever is going to help you learn. Okay? That's what you want to do. Anything that you struggle with, make a flashcard because it's that process of doing it. Now, people say, well, I can buy flashcards that are already made. No, I want you to make them because the process of being successful is that you made them. There is something about you writing them out. There's something about you being intimate with it that helps you learn. Okay, so I don't like to buy this pre-made stuff. Now, the reason we sell courses that are made because you need a plan to lead you from point A to point B, but it's still not reinventing the wheel here. It's explaining it in a logical format that makes you absorb it better, okay? And then that's why we give you all the questions so that you can now hammer home those skills and you realize how much better you're getting because your scores will start getting better. And again, it's, so our fast tracks has over 800 questions. And then you have the competency stuffs, which are right tough. And you add all them up together, and I think even the 2020, we even had more questions in it. I mean, you're looking at upwards of 1,500 questions to hone those skills. So if somebody asks me, what is the success rate using the fast tracks at passing your exam? I would say it's 100% if you follow the course. If you jump around because you think you know something, then I challenge you to do that competency review and let's see what your scores really are. If you're getting hundreds and 95s, and I'll say, hey, go for it, okay? Or I should say this. If you're in our program, and I'll get off my program for a second, but if you're in it and you're getting ready to skip a unit, I say go take the competency review and see what your score is. If your score comes back and that score is lower than a 75%, you ain't ready and you shouldn't be skipping it. You need to read, and that's what you need to do, okay? All right, enough of that. All right, so what we're going to do, it gets kind of some tips to tell you. Here, I want to share those up front. I don't know how much time I actually spent on that, but it is what it is. So now we'll kind of go and look at some questions. So hopefully you've got your code books, and it might have timed out. So if it does, I'm going to have to log in again. But we're going to go look at some 2020. So it doesn't matter whether you've got your 2017 book or the 2020 book. It's not going to matter. Hopefully you've got a code book. I've got both here. And I've got the electronic one as well. So in case we want to go look up something. But let me explain why we do this rule, because again, I'm going to leave this one up in the future for people to watch it later, because there will be people that miss it. And what I want to tell you is this. I'm not here to just show you a question and give you the answer. That does not help you at all, because you're going to have 100 plus questions on an exam, and I'm not going to give you enough questions and the answers to benefit you on an exam. But what I am going to do is give you a question, and we will look at it. And I will treat that question just like you, whether I know the answer or not. I will do my best to be very neutral in how I do the question, is thorough, and I will answer it. And what we'll do is I'll take a consensus, and I'll have you put your answers up here, whether it's A, B, C, or D, and then you'll give me a code reference. But do me a favor. I don't have patience for guessing. If you don't have a code book and you don't want to participate, just sit back and learn, okay? Call me whatever you want. I got enough of my haters out there that hate me. That's fine. Even my haters, I want to see them succeed, okay? I don't have any hate for anybody. Even those that give me a bunch of grief, they don't do as much as they used to. But again, I want you to succeed. But the reason you come to exam prep is to crack open your code book and look these things up, okay? And a lot of times, that's what you would highlight when you find the answer here, because these are very common questions that many people report seeing on exams. Not all of them, but there's a lot of them, okay? All right, so with that said, I kind of set the tone here. I don't want to be harsh or anything, because I'm not a harsh guy. I don't think I'm harsh. Except for those that have seen some of my comments on their fast track reviews where I'm kind of just harsh, but I mean, I'm not being harsh. I'm just trying to say, hey, you gotta do this. You know what I mean? All right, so let's kind of go look at it and see what we've got here. So you see I've made a couple little changes, so you should be able to see stuff on the screen. Plus you've got your own chat feature, so have at it. I will probably use that as well to kind of gauge how y'all are doing. There could be a delay. I get that. So again, just kind of the key here is that you look things up, not for me just to give you the answer. But what I want is A, B, C, or D, and that corresponds, for example, what you see on the screen, 80%, 60, 50, and 70, that represents A, B, C, or D, and give me the code reference. If you feel the burning passion in you to guess, I guess I can't stop you, but you're not helping yourself. You need to look it up. You might know this answer, and that's going to be great on an exam because that's a question that you answered in that first wave. And I didn't do that tonight. I didn't discuss the 3 waves because I want to get into these questions. But we might cover it at the end. But at the end of the day, I want you using your code book. That's what we got it for. All right? Okay. First question is a given. Means some things in here are going to be established as a given, means you just take it for granted the way it's written and don't read anything else into it. Okay? So we've got an electrical metallic tubing, EMT. Other little thing to know is EMT is not a conduit. It's a tubing, but it is a raceway. Okay? People ask me that question all the time. All the time. So EMT is a tubing system, 50 feet in length, to be installed, will contain a total of 9 conductors. So we got 9 conductors. Okay. It says 6 of these wires are considered to be current carrying. Okay. What is the adjustment factor in percentage that must be applied to the ampacity of the current carrying conductors? So in the scheme of life, there's a couple things that I like to talk about in a question like this. On an exam, you could see this actually in a bunch of different ways. I could have given you this question here, and then I could have asked you I could have given you a conductor sizes, for example, and then I could have asked you what size raceway. And since we have over two conductors in this raceway, then we can't fill it more than 40%. So I could change this question a couple different ways and come up with a really good question, right? This question, the 50 feet, is irrelevant. Okay. Be honest with you, the EMT is really irrelevant. The number of conductors, total 9, is really irrelevant. The key here is the number of current carrying conductors, and that is 6. Okay. So when we're dealing with conductors, these are kind of one of those areas where I want you to get familiar with it. Under the 2017 code, as Elwood is stated, it would be 31015 B3A. But under the 2020 code, and I know I'm giving you the answer, and I just caught myself, so I'm not going to do it on the next one. I apologize. But under the 2020 code, see, I make mistakes. Sorry, guys. Not human. Wait a minute. Did I say I'm not human? That's a good one. Anyway, so kill me. All right, so I am human. I am from this planet. So in this case right here, if it was 2020 code, it would be 31015 C1. Okay, but it under the 2017 code is 31015 B3A. Okay, so hopefully you got your code book. So one of the things that we do, we kind of gave the answer on this one, but how would I look this up? How would I find this answer? Tell me guys in the chat, what are some of the phrases that would have put you where you needed to be? Now, granted, by now, I'm familiar with most of your faces, and I probably should give a shout out to all of you that are in here, that at least those that speak up and want to be a part of it. There's a lot of people that sit in the background. I always love when people say, hey, I'm here, hey. And a little tip, I love when people go, so-and-so from Philly or so-and-so from Detroit, remember that in the future. I love to know where everybody is. You know what I'm saying? But one of the things that you remember is this is an example of where if I did a flashcard, I would do adjustments or corrections. And on the other side, I would put the code reference, 31015B3A if I'm in the 17 code, or 31015C if I'm in the 2020 code. You know what I'm saying? So we all got our code books, and I will go on and do this real quick. I will go, since we're already here, I will go over to the NEC, and I'm assuming you can see the NEC. Yeah, you can. And I'm working with how I'm doing this now, guys. Conductors are general. So this is a conductor question. And so I would know that I would go to, the area in the code, which is going to give me something about conductors for adjustment and corrections. And that's one of those things that you will just learn. Okay. 310.310.15 is one of those areas where it's going to be talking about adjustment and corrections and all that kind of good stuff. Okay. So at any rate, here's where I'm at. 310.15. And you've got the ambient correction, which is 310.15B1, which did not change. But what you have now is 310.15C1. And as you can see here, that it says 4 to 6, and I think our question was 6, right? So it's 80%. Okay, and so that would be our answer. So we're going to go with 80. And watch. This is probably see where that got that thing going. I told y'all it might time out on me. So this is maintenance 2. Bear with me for a second. I'll log back in because I've been waiting with it for a while. So hold on. Bear with me. There's never any situation where you don't have some kind of glitch. You know what I'm saying? Okay. All right, let's go down. I'm sure y'all are familiar with the Fast Tracks program already by now, so assessment. It'll give me a little warning up here. Okay. Now we're back where we were, okay? Okay. So, again, I think one of the things that we learned, what's up, Caleb? Thanks for coming. Gennaro, get to get your name right. Thank you for coming. Gustavo, thank you for coming. I got to give a shout out to all you guys. Again, remember, if you get something out of this, you can donate with the little cash symbol. Papa always loves the donations. And it'll put you in a drawing for our flashlights or our screwdriver. Thank you. All right. So anyway, hey, M, thanks for coming. All right. So one of the tables, and I saw somebody mention it, I think Elwood said, really get familiar with the fact that anytime a question is going to have adjustment or corrections, you're going to be digging into 310.15. At least get you in that area, then it should make sense once you get in that area. If you didn't know, okay, then you could go to the index, okay? And in this case, if I were to go to the index, again, kind of figuring how I might do it if I didn't know this, but we do enough of this training that that's one of the things where you just kind of get used to it and you know that you're dealing with it. Now, it looks like the electronic version my electronic version for this one might not have an index, which would be a bad reason to get the electronic version, folks. No index in the electronic version. They got the search feature. I don't cheat with the search feature. I'm not going to cheat with that. So anyway, that's kind of disappointing that they don't have the index in this. So what that means is I'm actually going to open up my 2017. If y'all don't mind, bear with me because I don't. Okay, bear with me here, guys. Let me see if this works. Whoa! No, that doesn't work. Hold on. I had a crash. Y'all probably remember it as a couple some odd whatever ago. But I have to add it, so bear with me here. Let me add it real quick. Just chill out for a second, folks. I got this. I got it. All right, let me bring me back. Okay. We got the code again. All right. So this is what we've got here, and I will go to the index. Kind of sucks that the other doesn't have that. Okay. All right. So if I was looking in the index, where am I going to go to find the answers to this? So it takes me back to the questions. It always happens when I got to try to maneuver. So now I've got all these screens and I'm going to get screwed up somewhere, I know. Okay. So it was much easier before. Now it's getting more complicated and I should have left it alone. So let's go back in here and let me go on and get rid of this code book because this is going to do us no good, really. We'll just use the 2017. It's not going to make a big difference. All right, so here's our question. All right, so here's your question. So we're trying to find out current carrying conductors and adjustment factors and current carrying conductors. Okay, so if we didn't know the answer, which you really should know, that we're dealing in 31015, but we'll assume you don't. And so then we'll go and we'll look at the code. And we're going to look in, and this is something that I tell people all the time. The index is not the holy grail. I actually want you to actually dig into it and look things up and look for all of the things that might be relevant so that it benefits you in the middle of a stressful situation. So like under ampacities, I'm trying to solve an ampacity for a conductor, but I'm doing it without I'm just need to know the percentage. Okay. So, I mean, conductors could get me to 310.15 and then I start bold scanning. Okay. Might be one way to do it. So other than that, I don't see any reference, and I didn't see it in case I missed it, in case anybody's looking in their index, that said adjustments. So one of the things I might go to current carrying conductors and see if there's anything under current carrying conductors, just to see. Now, the reason we do this, and if you're new to this channel and you haven't seen us do this, and you're thinking, well, why didn't Paul just give us the answer where I kind of did earlier? But you don't learn anything by doing that, right? You don't learn it. What you learn is by going through the index and learning what's in here or not. So we're talking about conductors. Okay, so we're under conductors. And we're going to go down and we're just going to see if there's anything in here that's beneficial to us, because you'll remember these type of things during an exam. Okay, that's when you remember things. So here's ampacity, still puts me in 310.15. And again, there's not a perfect thing. I mean, the index is what it is. So I'm just kind of looking through and see what might be a benefit when it comes to adjustment. And again, there might be another way. I don't spend my whole time trying to figure out all the possible ways. That's why I look at them with you. I spend so much time studying their fast tracks course, for example, that I don't need to use the index near as much, because you just will learn code. But we're just going to assume that you're not, and you're new into this. Okay. So again, down here, I don't see anything that's beneficial to me. Again, nothing that sticks out that would be beneficial. Let's see. Current carrying. Okay. Current carrying capacities. That's kind of what we're looking for. And then it says see ampacities. Okay. Spent all that time and it's telling me to go back to look at ampacities. So I'll go back and look, and I think we already did, but that's going to get me where I need to be. And then I use what's called bold scanning. So here's ampacities, which also says, and that's where we saw the conductors at 310.15. And so I'm not going to spend a whole lot more time on that. I'm going to use that, and I'm going to head on over to 310.15, and that's where I'm going to find my information. And we did that. So if I was doing this for an exam, I would go over to, because we're talking conductors, I would go to 310.15. And again, I already told you the answer up front, but I'm showing you how you would logically do this on an exam. And again, not everything is going to be in the index. You got it. That's why you have to learn, because again, not everything's going to be in there. All right. So here's your 310.15B3A. Of course, it's 310.15C1 in the 2020, but there's your 4 to 6. There's your 80%. And there you go. And that's kind of how you would do it. And what I use is bold scanning, is look for what I need. And the only way you're going to do this, now people ask me, let me take it back to me. People ask me all the time, okay, Paul, can I just prepare for an exam and take the exam and bold scan and do this? And my answer to that is no, because you have to have some type of knowledge. And that's why you got to put in if you're getting ready to take an exam, its assumption is that you have hands-on and you have a certain amount of hours in there. So you should already be knowing that 310.15 is adjustment and corrections, 310.16 in 2020 code is ampacities, or 310.15B16 is ampacities. That's what the flashcards are for. I would most certainly make a flashcard for this table, right? And I would most certainly make a flashcard for this table, for the ampasties. Call one a correction and one an adjustment. Exactly how I would do it. Okay, if that was doing it. All right, makes sense? Okay, let's go back over the browser. And it was a whole lot of me talking about how you use the index. But I think the misconception is that some people think that every question on the exam is going to be able to be found in the index. And there might be a better resource than what I used. But I want to be honest with you. If you have to go to an exam and you have to use an index for every question, you're not going to pass. You're going to run out of time. That's why you study with a plan. That's why you study with a purpose. That's why you study so that things become repetitious, so that you can do those 3 waves through the test. Go through the first wave, answer everything that you know that you've learned in your studies. You know that securing and supporting for NMB is 4.5 feet. You know that securing and supporting for MC cable is 6 feet. You know that AC is 4.5. You know these things. So when you get that question, you check it and you move on. And guess what you just done? You just bought yourself 1 minute to 2 minutes of extra time that you can use on a harder question. So go through and answer what you know. Tick mark on the electronic testing what you don't know. Then on your second wave, answer the ones that you marked that you didn't know. And if you still get one that you spend more than an additional minute on, skip it. Go to the next one. But the only difference is, before you go to the next one, I need you to at least choose an answer and do an educated guess, because you don't want to run out of time and then you didn't answer some of them. Okay? So again, I'll cover that in the end if I got time, the real process of how that works. So you're not going to get every answer in the index. Just understand that. You're going to have to rely on some of your knowledge. And that's why we do this. After all of that 5 minutes of all of that rambling, you should now know that adjustment and corrections are going to be in 3, 10, 15. And then you know what it looks like. There you go. There's a diamond in the rough for you. Okay. All right. So let's go on to, all right. So in this case, we did 80%. And you see that it is correct. And here you see both code references. 31015 B3A, 31015 C1. Incidentally, those that are in the Fast Tracks course or in the exam only course or the bundle courses that have the 2020, we're giving you 17 and 2020 answers so that you can, that way if you buy it for the 17, you're still going to get some benefit out to learn it for the 20. So it's kind of a better value, if you will, to go with the 2020 edition. It's your choice, though. Your choice. All right. Next one. How much clear working space? Oh, gotta have that safe space. How much clear working space is required to be maintained between a 3-phase? Now remember, give me answers by looking it up. Don't just throw it out there. If you just came on, look it up. Spend the time. Invest in yourself. I believe in you. That's why you're here. So I'm investing in you. I know you can do it. So there you go. Oh, see, there was my motivational stuff. So how much clear space is required to be maintained between a 3-phase 480Y to 77-volt main switchboard and a concrete block wall? Do not guess. Look it up, say A, B, C, or D, and give me a code reference. Okay? Mandingo's was already on it. He says it's 3 feet. Oh, I wasn't going to give the answer. Well, y'all can see it, so what's the big deal? All right, so, okay. And he gave a code reference. Very good. I got to ask, Mandingo, 12 Mandingos, are you already licensed or are you studying for an exam? I can't remember. I think maybe you passed already, but you still, I can't remember. I can't remember. Are you in the Fast Tracks program? We have so many, I hate to say that because I like to think I remember every student, but I've got so many students now in the programs that when it started, it wasn't that, it was easier to maneuver. Now we have hundreds and hundreds of students in there, right? So it's just, working it. Okay, so where do we look this answer? So this is a working space. So if I was dissecting this, like if we were doing my find the root here, my dissection of this would be working space. Okay. Now I can look at switchboards, and that might be something. Okay. But working space, switchboards, things like that is going to remember. Now, again, studying for an exam, if you get a bunch of questions that talk about working space, then remember that 110.26 can be your friend, because that talks about the width, the depth, the height of working space, and all the things that are around that. Now, here's a little tip. Don't confuse working space with dedicated equipment space. This happens a lot with people. What's a dedicated equipment space? That is the width and the depth of a panel, let's say, in a wall. It's the width and the depth of it. That extends up 6 feet and down to the floor. So that's your dedicated equipment space, right? And we don't have nothing else in it. The working space is the space from live parts out. And in this case, we have a block wall on the other side, which is considered ground. It's conductive. So you got to take that into consideration. Okay. So we'd go to 110.26. So we'll go on over to the code. And I'm sorry, I would have y'all up on this one as well, but I didn't plan on doing it. But there's your 110. And we'll go down. Oops. And somebody also said it's 1,000 volts or less. Absolutely. Because if it's going to be over 1,000, you're going to be in part 3. Just so you know, in case you ever get that. People say I don't teach enough over 1,000 volts. And I'm like, it's because it's right there in the code. All right. So here's your table, your working space. Now, I tend to do this. I highlight that. Okay. And I tend to do that. And I usually tend to do this in my code book. All right. But that's it. That is it. I don't do anything else typically for this. All right. Now, when you're looking at the conditions down here, in this case, we're talking the minimum clearance. So what was our voltage to ground? Okay. Remember the question? So we'll go back to the question so we can see what was our voltage to ground. So it's 480Y, but it's 277 volts. So again, 277 is the one to ground, right? That's phase to phase, and this is to grounds, okay? So it's 480, 277Y, okay? Okay, so it's 277. Back to the code. All right, now, and that's the case, it's still going to fall under here. So we know that's a given. Now, you don't have to highlight this. I'm just doing it for our lesson here. Number one condition, you have exposed live parts on one side and no live or grounded parts on the other side of the working space. Probably 90% or more of the jobs you deal with, that's going to be the case. In a basement or whatever, it's a case. But in our case, we have exposed live parts on one side of the working space and grounded parts on the other side of the workspace, which is concrete, brick, or tile walls, shall be considered grounded. So it's very much a condition 2. Very good for everybody that said that. Did awesome. So then you just have condition 2, and you correspond them right here, and it is 3 foot 6 inches. Very good for everybody that got that. All right, now, I'm going to give you some more tips about this. Okay? Be very careful on an exam. In our fast tracks, people fall prey to this a lot. If they ask you, this one's pretty cut dry. If they ask you for inches, give the answer in inches. If they ask you for feet, give the answer in feet. I don't know how many times I got to mark it wrong, and I hate to do this to the people in the fast tracks, but if it asked me this same question, and it was written differently, okay, and it said, what is the working space in inches? Well, 3 feet is 36, and 6 is what? Anybody answer? 42, right? So my answer would be answered 42. Okay? So read the question. So that brings us to another tip. We get so stressed out in an exam, and hopefully y'all go listen to my podcast about how to reduce stress before an exam. It's a podcast, so you can just easy listening. You'd be surprised how popular y'all wouldn't be, but how popular our podcasts are. We have over 300,000 unique listeners to our podcasts every month. But it's because we have a lot of them. So it's not like any one of them gets total a huge amount, right? But I mean, it collectively, that's how we do it. And so again, remember, whatever the question asks, answer the question accordingly. Okay? That's the key. All right? But stress. Do not need to stress the last week or two before an exam. You want to start timing yourself a little bit. And I think I was going to give you another tip, but I think I got my mind. See, I have ADD bad, so I go off kinds of places. Just make sure that you answer the way they ask you the question. Okay? I'd hate to see you, and they're liable to give you the wrong way. Right? I mean, I could have put the answer here. I could have put 42 inches, let's say. And some people work in inches. Some people translate to feet. You could have put 42 inches, and that would have been wrong. It's technically not wrong, but it's not what they ask at the question. You know what I'm saying? So just gotta be careful. All right, next question. Oh, we gotta answer this question. Hold on. All right, so there we go. 110.26A1 did not change in the 2017 through the 2020, so there you go. All right, next one. Work it out. Remember, give me code references. Give me answers. This is really you. See, I can do this for you. But I could have answered the last three we did without even looking them up, and I've built myself a bank of time. That doesn't help you any. If you're studying for an exam, even if you know the answer, go through the exercise. Now, this is a neat one because I can use process of elimination to maybe, without even having to look it up, I can get rid of the obvious. But let's read the question. As a general rule, where the ampacity of a specific conductor does not match the rating of a listed standard overcurrent device, okay? And we know, since that's not one of the answers, and you all know where that is, 240.6a, which is the list of all the standard overcurrent devices. It says blank of the NEC permits the use of the next standard overcurrent device where loads are 800 amperes or less. Okay. Obviously, it's asking about overcurrent devices. Table 31016 has nothing to bring to this table. So in exam, when I tell you to do an educated guess, people ask me, Paul, explain that a little bit. Take the obvious and get rid of it. Get rid of it. Nothing in here is asking me about conductors. Okay? All right, Mandingo, you're breaking the rules. You got to give me the code reference. I know the code's on the screen, so again, I'm just going to chew you out. And I'm just playing. Hold on, I have a button for that. I was trying to be funny. All right, so tape the A 31016, right? That don't help me. So I'm in an exam and I'm like, got to build me some time, right? Because I got all these hard calculations coming. You know what I'm saying? So I go, well, A can't be it. And then 310.10, that can't be it. What does that leave me with? B or D? Now, a student of the code will know that .2 is definitions. There ain't nothing in here about definitions. So by matter of just studying the code, following a plan like we've talked about, then I can eliminate three options right here, and the only other option is 240.4b. So I don't even have to go look it up. All right. So say I want to go look it up. Then this would be an example where we would go look under overcurrent devices in the back of the book. Okay, we would do that. Or we could go to 240 and we could hit bold scans. Why do I say that? Because I've eliminated A and C. I'm in 240. And if you'll notice something, it's .2 or .4. It's right in the beginning of 240. I mean, that's based on our answers. Am I going to waste time going to the back when I know that 310 is dealing with conductors? That's not where I need to be. Look, the secret to success, so much in business, so much in life, so much in the code, is time management. Okay? How do I know this? If you don't manage your time in your marriage, you lose it. If you don't manage your time on an exam, you lose it. Okay? If you don't sell stocks at a good time, when it starts to tank, you lose it. Okay? It is all about, okay, time management. And in this case, you have a certain amount of minutes, certain number of questions. This one, by process of elimination, I would have found the answer. But for an educational thing, I want to remind you that overcurrent devices, if you're doing flashcards, you should know that overcurrent devices are 240. You should know that .2, for example, is definitions. Okay? So different things you learn. Okay? You should already know that table 31016 is ampacities. So, and you also should know that 31016 doesn't exist in the 2017 code, only in the 2020 code. So just little things to think about, okay? But I just kind of showed you how you would do what's called an educated guess. And we're going to do an educated guess. And I got it right. And we bought some time. Okay. Next question. Everybody's doing good? Hey, John. NH, thanks for coming. All right, so the reason the NEC requires all grounded and ungrounded conductors of a common circuit to be installed together on the same together in the same ferrous metal raceway is to reduce what? Give me the code reference where you would find this, okay? And then give me an answer A, B, C, or D. Now, remember a couple of things. Let's use our deductive reasoning again. Do you think the National Electrical Code cares about the expense? Cares less. You also know that voltage drop, for the most part, is not a requirement in the code. It's a recommendation. Other than fire pumps and sensitive electronic equipment requirements in the code, generally, voltage drop is a what? Recommendation. Okay? So, that leaves me with two choices. Inductive heating or resistance. Okay? Now, beyond this, where would I find the answer? So this is a general application question. Okay? Could be in the back under ferrous metal raceways. I probably doubt it. You could look in the back under any of these references. Now, I wouldn't look up voltage drop in the back. I wouldn't look up expense in the back. But I might look up inductive heat, and I might look up resistance if I'm going to go back there anyway. Okay? Now, I can only assume that my stream is really delayed because, Hector, I asked that question probably 15 minutes ago. So I'm assuming it's delayed. I'll assume it's delayed. Okay? But you are right, Hector. We're right. So if you go look at the code book and I were to do deductive reasoning here, then I would go to the NEC and I might go and say, well, if I were to go to the index and I'm going to look up inductive heating, just bear with me here. Y'all know how I hate using the index anyway. Oops. Okay. So we're kind of look here and see if we see anything that, all right, inductive currents and metal enclosure. Okay, induction, electric. Well, that's specifically induction heating. That's not what we're looking for. And these are inductive heating systems, which is an actual heating. We're looking for what we don't want to happen. Okay, so in my mind here, if I'm preparing for an exam, here's another tip for you. In an exam, you're going to get scratch paper or you're going to get a dry erase pen. When you venture into this index, I want you to get used to making sure that you only have to really make one trip to the index. Okay? One trip. All right? So in this case, I would have looked at inductive currents, metal enclosures. I would look at 300.20, and then I got 330.31. But as you get familiar with this, you realize that 330 is talking about MC cable. And so as you're practicing, you got to practice. You should be doing what? Doing flashcards, or if you're in our Fast Tracks program, you should be using your own electronic flashcards, and you should know that 330 is metal clad cable. Okay? You'll know what 300 is. Okay? And so all of that type of stuff should help you out. Okay? So there we got that for 300.20. That's going to be my reference there. But also during that time, what was my other option? And I think that was resistance. Okay. So while I'm here, oops, bear with me. I keep clicking on the wrong thing. I'm going to go down to resistance. And other people have asked me before, why don't I just use the search feature? Well, that would be cheating. And I don't want to do that. Okay. So let's go elemental PQR. Okay. So we'll go down here and we'll see if there's anything under resistance. I'm already back here. And this is only if in the sense that I just don't know the answer and I've got to use my index. Okay, so I'm going to look here. I'm scanning it quickly. Here's resistance. Okay. All right, so I see if there's anything in here. None of this. This is heating equipment. We're not talking about heating equipment. We're talking about an effect that's created. So I'm looking here and I'm seeing if there's anything else that's... I don't see anything. So I'm going to go with my 300.20 because I can't spend forever in the back of there. And I'm going to start bold scanning when I get to around my 320. And I see inductive currents. I see ferrous metal raceways or enclosures. That's kind of a trigger to me. Okay, it's triggering it. And I'm starting to look here in... talks about again, so I got the inductive effect, and I'm just going to keep looking here, and that's going to be where I want to be. And here, where conductors carry alternating current are installed in ferrous metal enclosures or ferrous metal raceways, they shall be arranged so as to avoid heating the surrounding ferrous metal by induction. To accommodate this, all phase conductors and where used, the grounded conductors and all equipment grounded conductors shall be grouped together. That's a general premise in wiring. We run all the conductors together. We do have some allowance in 250, 130 when we don't have an equipment ground that it can be out. It doesn't have to be in the cable or raceway. That's very unique. Generally, all other times, we run all of the circuit conductors together and our equipment grounds. Okay? And that will get rid of this induced currents, which creates a heating effect. Okay, so that means we can go back to our question. Gotta put it on the screen. I think I went to the wrong one. Sorry about that, guys. All right, so I'm back to the question. And so obviously it's not expense. Obvious resistance didn't help us. Obvious voltage drop. So what are we doing? Inductive heating, and we're answering correct. 300.20a, that is all the info we just read. And I got it, okay, by using the answers. Don't be afraid to use the answers. But what you want to try to do is eliminate the ones that are obviously not any benefit, right? They're not a benefit at all, okay? Again, some people would say, why isn't the index written in a certain way that it just gives me the answers? Why? I mean, again, the only people that are supposed to use the NEC, and if you read the front of it, are skilled professionals. So it's not like it's people say, well, why don't they write a code book that the general public can use? I don't want the general public. I'd rather take the time and teach somebody like you to use it, who are skilled people, and that's a benefit. And again, it's our trade. I am very proud of this profession. I don't want just anybody to be able to do it. Okay? I don't. I want skilled professionals. I'm not a plumber. I'm not a mechanical guy. I'm an electrician. I take a lot of pride in it. That's why I do have my swag with the master electrician on it. One of the proudest moments of my career was when I became a master electrician. The first proudest moment is when I became a journeyman. And I show my pride on everything. I put my stickers on everything. It's kind of like Fred's or whatever's hot sauce. I put that beep on everything. Okay. Code books. I'm very proud. I wear shirts. My shirts say Master Electrician. All right. So I'm proud of it. Okay. Can't take it away from me unless you do something stupid. All right. So we answered that question. Let's go to another one. All right, guys. Got your code books? All right. Here we go. In general, Branch circuit conductors serving continuous loads, such as luminaires in an office building or commercial plant, shall have an ampacity of not less than blank % of the load. Okay? What do you think? Now, this is another great one where it doesn't take you long learning the code that everybody should get this right. And you don't necessarily have to look this up. You should know what a continuous load is. And especially when it tells you in the code to take something as a continuous load. In this case, we're talking about lighting in an office building, which is going to run what? 3 hours or more, and it has to be considered a continuous load. Now be careful. In an exam, they might just flat out tell you something's a continuous load. Okay, 125%. Absolutely, Elwood. Nailed it. So just remember, to qualify as a continuous load, there's a definition for it. It's a load that's drawn at its maximum value for 3 hours or more. So on an exam, you might have somebody tell you something, the exam question might read something, but unless it says it pulls the maximum load for 3 hours or more, it's not a continuous load unless they tell you it's a continuous load. Okay? So there are certain things that you know that are going to be 3 hours or more. Parking lot lighting. Okay? It's going to be on all night. Office buildings. Commercial. May be running all day, and depending if they're burning the midnight oil, they might run all night. There is absolutely nothing in a dwelling, typically, I shouldn't say absolutely nothing, didn't tell you something. There is, PV is a great example. PV code will tell you to take it. EV, electric vehicle charging, it will tell you to take it at 125. So there's other things in the code that tell you to do it. And then there's other areas of the code where you have to just know that it's going to run at its full maximum output for 3 hours or more. Now, back to my residential thing. The only things that you would take in a residence as at 125%, and it is typically for the branch circuit applications, and that is conductor sizing and things like that, is the water heater and electric baseboard heating. But when you do the overall load calculation, you don't take it at 125%. That confuses the heck out of people. They're like, well, don't I supposed to take the water heater at 125% when I do the load calculation for that appliance? No, you take the actual wattage, okay, which is VA. You don't do it at 125%. But when you're sizing the branch circuit for that water heater, then you do take it at 125%. Don't know why that blows people's mind. There's enough diversity in the actual overall load count that you don't have to take it at 125%. But when you're sizing branch circuits, you do. Okay? Same thing again for baseboard, electric baseboard heat. They want it at 125%. Okay? All right. So, yes. So, there you go. Now, actually, John, 220.10a, I believe that's for the overcurrent device, not for the circuit conductors. I believe that'd be 210.19 that talks about the 125%. But, good point. A lot of times, hopefully y'all watch my derating demystified video, because then that talks about the fact that I've still got to protect the conductor at its ampacity, and when I'm choosing a breaker, again, the breakers have to be, if it's a continuous load, the breaker it's got to be at least 125%, okay? And of course, you also have conversely, if you already start with the breaker's rating and you want to know what it limits it to on the conductor to 80% for continuous load, you take the breaker's rating and you multiply it by 80%, and that's the maximum continuous load that you can have on a conductor. And also remember another tip. I'm throwing a lot of crap out there tonight to you guys. Another thing to remember is that even when something says that something is a continuous load, and we go through this exercise, if I have 39 amps of continuous load, do you know what the actual load is? It's 39 amps. But when we size a conductor, because of the rules in the code, when it's a continuous load, we take that actual value, 39 amps, which is the actual load, and we do it at 125%. because that's an exercise that the code tells us to do. At the end of the day, there you go, James. At the end of the day, it's still just 39 amps. And that is a concept that just seems to blow people's mind. Why do we do this 125? It's because the breaker can't handle it. Unless the breaker is a 100% rated breaker that can handle continuous loads at its face value, which usually breakers do not. Okay? So continuous loads, a breaker, you limit it to 80% on the conductor. Of the conductor, to choose, if you don't know the breaker, but you know the conductor's the continuous load that you want, and you need to pick a conductor, take the actual load that is continuous at 125%, size your conductor, and then remember that the breaker has to be at least 125% of that continuous load, which is still 39 amps. And so when you size the conductor, just make sure that the breaker that has to be no less than 125% per code to 10.20, make sure it can still protect that conductor. And if it can, you're all good. Good to go. So yeah, John, check it out. So 210.20 is about breakers, or overcurrent, I should say. 210.19 talks about taking conductors that have continuous loads at 125 and non-continuous at 100%. If you don't have any adjustment and corrections. If you have adjustment and corrections, then you'll take it at whatever the higher value is rated on the insulation, apply your adjustment and corrections, see what your new conductor's ampacity is, okay? And then again, at that point, you're selecting a conductor from whatever the terminal limitations are, and I didn't want to go into a big class tonight on sizing because I do have the derating demystified videos, so check it out. And I'm going to be doing a new one of those in a couple weeks for the 2020 code. But again, it's not a whole lot's going to change. Just code references. Okay. Anyway, that's a lot of info. Man, I don't know why y'all's heads aren't blowing up right now. I should see blowed up. I should see symbols of... It's good stuff. All right. So 125%. And there you go. 210.19A1A. There's your reference. All right. Next code question. Give it a shot, guys. You're doing good. General. The ampacity of a size 8 AWG THWN. Be careful here, guys. You've heard me talk about this before. General, the ampacity of a size 8 AWG THWN copper conductor is what? Now remember, this is going to be a neat one because we're gonna see what our answers are before I select it. 50, 55, 40, or 35. So choose A, B, C, or D. And give me the code reference. And this could go either way because of the size of the conductor. And again, we don't always know what the author's intent of the question. I found a couple today with another student earlier that I didn't like the question. And the author was going on a different path than we needed to be. So then I submitted it to them to change it for the next cycle. I will remind you that the author of the book in our program did not create these questions, okay? So there was a third party that created these questions, and they're pretty good, but kind of something that have to make you think, okay? All right, so again, ampacity. So it is a THW here. So here's how I dissect this, and then maybe they're going in the direction that I want it to go, okay? All right, so and some good comments are coming in up here. So this is good. So this is for everybody that's watching, and I don't know how many people we have on the stream. THWN does not have the -2 on it. So that means that it is only rated under the 75-degree column. So you couldn't use it in the 90 ampacities anyway. So that's a kind of a given. We're just kind of looking at some things. If we follow the terminal limitations that are in 110.14c, then we know that when we're dealing with 14 gauge through, I think, 1, we'll look in a minute, that anything that's 100 amps or less, okay, is going to be under the 60 degree. Anything over 100 amps is going to be in the 75. We do know that it's THWN, however, which tells us what? That it is 75-degree rated insulation. So we have all those little rules in the code. So this is where people can get confused. Do I follow the 60? Or do I follow the 75? Well, remember all those little rules under 110.14a, 1 blah, blah, blah? It says, well, if you already know the insulation rating, I can always use a higher rated insulation. And nothing was said in this question about the terminals. It didn't come up. So my thing to you guys is don't read too much into the question. Just answer the question. We already know the insulation. It's good for 75. If it was TW, then we know that's 60. It's not a trick question. Oh, it says trick question. Not a trick question. For the savvy code user, they already know that this THWN. We're not going to assume what they mean by generally, so we're going to answer this question and see which way the author was leaning. I know what I think it should be. When I say generally, I mean generally. Don't give me a conductor's insulation and if you don't expect me to use it. So it's THWN. It's good for 75 degrees C, column. Okay. So I'm going to choose that. So let's go to the code. Let's see. And give me something to yell at the writer of these questions if I'm wrong. So again, 8 gauge THWN. So let's go to the code. Good question, guys. Not too far. Okay. So it is THWN. So it is right there. And sorry for all this other stuff on here, guys. I do lessons and I notice it's not -2. Let me get rid of this. Okay. All right. So it's THWN. We know the insulation's good for 75 degrees C. It's an 8 gauge. So my mind says it would be 50 amperes. So let's go look at what it says. So see, because even if the author gives us a different answer, I'm going to tell you what the right answer is going to be. 110.14c. And of course, you can agree to disagree with me, Ken. It's fine. All right, so here's what it says. So if it is sized 14 through 1 or 100 amps or less, then it would be 60 degrees C. However, it does allow me to use conductors with a higher temperature rating, provided the ampacity of such conductors is determined based on 60 degrees C ampacity for the conductor size used. Okay. And of course, you have this one here that says conductors with a higher temperature rating, if the equipment is listed and identified for use with such conductors. Go either way, guys, because they're not telling us anything about the equipment here. Okay. So maybe that generally means something. I don't know. We're going to see in a minute. Of course, with motors, we don't need to worry about that. Okay. So let's kind of come back to us. If I can push the right button. Hey, WWE, thanks for coming. Hold on, John. Don't assume anything yet. Okay. So let's say we were to do this and you say general. So let's do a show of hands. All of you can type this in real quickly. How many people say 50? And how many people say 40? Because if you don't give me terminals here, even though you give me the insulation, when I say generally, this is an example where this question could go either way. Okay, I got a 50. Thank you, John. Come on, guys, shoot me some. Interact with me. Elwood says 40. He thinks that generally means generally, even though it's THWN because of the lack of data. The lack of terminal information, which might happen in the field. You might get in the field and you don't know anything. You don't know the terminals. You can't see it. It's worn off. WWE says 40. Okay. Dustin, 50. Mandingo's, 50. Arturo, hey, I didn't see you in there, Arturo. Thanks for coming. 50. 50 twice. Does that mean you want 100? Or you got 51? All right. James got a 50 in there. Okay. So for me, this is why we use this as an educational moment. This is why we do this. Let's look at it. If I were to tell you in the real world here, if your terminals were rated 75 degrees C, even though this conductor is smaller than a 1, okay, and it looks like it would be 60, because of that insulation rated at 75 degrees C, because that's what THWN, and as long as the terminals are rated for 75, guess what? That conductor is good for 50 amps. You with me? We're going to, whatever the answer is going to be, because we don't know how the author wrote the question. I want this to be a learning moment. Now, if I get on the job and I can't read the lugs rating, I can't read the device rating. You're the service guy making the trip, and you can't read it. And I see this THWN, but I can't make heads or tails of the termination rating or the device rating. I just have no freaking clue what its rating is. Then I'm going to do what? Because it is 1 gauge and smaller, and it is under 100 amperes, I'm going to go with the 40. So now we get to guess what the author, because again, I don't know what that generally means. You're not going to see that word on an exam. Okay? So if I don't know otherwise, and they don't tell me any terminals here or anything, logically you would think with this question, I'm going to go with the 40. Okay? So we're going to do it. We're going to go with the 40. Incorrect. Hold on. Where's my thing? Hold on. Earlier when I led you to the 50 and I highlighted the 50 in the code book, that's why I spent so much time doing that. I already knew this question was in here. You really have to dissect the question. You are not going to get a question on an exam, folks, that say generally. Okay? The whole intent of this author's question here was to try to make you think it's THWN, it's graded for 75 degrees C. And even though the conductor is less size than 1 and smaller, because of an insulation, we're using the benefits. Now, if I had to change this in any way and said the terminals were rated 60, then the question would be answered differently. Okay? Great question. I happen to be honest with you, I happen to agree with the author that this should be 50 because I didn't give you any terminals, so I don't want you to assume terminals. I just want you to work. And he's made a statement many times in his book, or the guy that wrote the questions. He wants you to focus on the question. What did we do together? And I knew this was going to be a great discussion. What did we do together? We assumed something that wasn't in the question. We assumed that there's terminal ratings that we have to worry about. Okay? Easiest way to take an exam is to just answer the question. Don't assume terminals. Don't assume anything. All we know on this question was we had a 75 degree rated conductor, and because of the limitations of 110.14c, and because I'm using an insulation that is rated higher than what would typically fall under these amp values in the 110.14c, I went with the better of the two, and that's kind of how it would be in the real world. But if you walked up on a terminal that's rated 60 and the device is rated 75 and you're using THWN, you're going to be stuck at using 60 because of the weakest link concept. The limiting factor here is going to be the terminal. It's only good for 60. You with me? All right. Just some good stuff, man. You'll remember it forever, and we'll never have to talk about it again. All right, next one. Y'all are doing well tonight. Y'all are all my favorite students. Okay, next one. When an electrical trade size 3/4 inch electrical metallic tubing, and again, for those that came in late, tubing is not a conduit, but it is a raceway. It is very much different. I hate to hear, you know those little things that kind of you hate to hear, is when somebody calls EMT a conduit. I mean, okay, it's all right, but it's really not. It is a raceway, but it's not a conduit. All right, so when electrical trade size 3/4 inch electrical metallic tubing is in excess of 24 inches in length, the conduit oh, hold on. Note to test writer. FYI, EMT is not a conduit. You'll love me. Okay. Anyway, sorry. Oh, sometimes you got to make yourself laugh. Otherwise, you get bored to death doing code. Okay. So the conduit is permitted to contain no more than blank size 10 AWG conductors with THWN insulation. Okay. All right. So this is a good one. So let's think about it. I got a bunch of numbers out here, but y'all haven't given me any solutions. You haven't given me any code references. You're not following the rules anymore. Everything's just gone to pot here. Okay. We've gone off track. All right. So anyway, so here's a couple things. First of all, it's in excess of 24 inches in length, right? I'm going to show you how we do this. There you go, Mandingo. Okay, Mandingo, she's using the cheat in the back of the book. All right, so, okay, well, we're going to do this, but we're going to do it two ways. I want to do it two ways because I want to learn, because this gives me an opportunity to show y'all how to do raceway fill, okay? For those that send me emails and say, Paul, how do you do raceway fill? All right, so now, since this is over 24 inches, it's not a nipple, okay? Or treat it as a nipple, which means you could fill it up to 60%. In this case, it's over 24, so I can fill it up to 40%. Now, where did I get that? Chapter 9, Table 1, okay? We obviously have, we're going to have any, if you look at any of the answers, we already have, okay? We already have more than 2 conductors that are going to be in here. So we already as a given. Now, here's a tip, and you better hope that they're this easy on an exam. If the raceway has all the same size conductors in it, then you can go to informative annex, okay, and you can go to C, and you can look for E and T. It'll tell you how many conductors you can put in that raceway, okay? Pretty simple, right? Let's do that, and then we'll come back and show you how to actually calculate it out. And any of you that already know this answer and you got it right, go on and start the calculation, okay? All right, so let's go on and go to the code, because, we got all kinds of people wanting to learn here. And, we're having a really good night. We're nailing it. So it's going to take a second because I've got my slow $4,000 computer that's acting all slow. Okay, so EMT is under C1. And again, informative annex C. So I'm going to go down to C1. Good news, it's the first one. So we're at 3/4 trade size. And it was 10 gauge, right? And we're going to draw the line from there. Oops. Wait a minute. What in our world did I just do? Wow. Hold on for a second. Close that thing. I don't know what I was doing. All right, so we're here, and let's see here. So let's go back just to see. This says, oh, wait a minute. What did we do wrong? That's RHH. And we don't want that. How do I get rid of this? Sorry about that. Got a little carried away. Oh, incidentally, do you see how quickly that could happen? Okay, anyway, usually I can find it. All right, so THWN, find it. There it is. Bing. Go over here. Bing. All right, so THWN, and we need 10 gauge. Bing. And then we're going to go down. And we align it all up, and it looks like it lets me put 10 in there. Okay, so we're going to go back to the question. All right, 10 is an option. Hey, what's up, Jay? All of y'all, welcome Jay late to the stream. He's out there making a living. My co-host on Electrician Live. Holla. All right, so now, all right, look. We used the Annex C, and we saw that it's 10. How do you do this in the real world? If they weren't the same, you'd do the steps like I'm going to do it here in a minute. But that's how you do it if they're all the same. Okay? Just that simple. You choose the 10. Okay? Now let's go look at the code and see how we would do it differently. It's THWN, and it's copper, all that kind of good stuff, and it's EMT. Let's figure out how we do it. So I want to show you how to do raceway fill. And again, since they're all the same, even if they weren't all the same, you do it the same way. You just do each size separately to get your value. Okay, so raceway fill, you ready? I'll do this quick as possible. All right, so let's go to, close that, chapter 9. Now here's where we saw that we can't fill it more than 40%. Okay, chapter 9, table 1. That's where we get all that good info here, cross-sectional area. So now let's just go down to, and again, we're going to work with table 4, and we're going to work with table 5. So get your pencils handy, pens handy, whatever. Oh, so EMT. So we're going to be over 2 conductors, and we need to find out what size raceway we're going to be. So we're going to highlight this and this so we can come back to it later. Okay. Now, table 4 is going to tell us the area. But before we do that, we got to find out what each conductor takes up when it comes to square inches. Okay? And so that we can do that and find out. Now, one thing we want to do first is we did say it was 3/4, right? So this is 0.213. Write that down. 0.213. Write it down. Now, we've highlighted it. We can come back here later, but we can write it down and you're good to go. Whatever you want to do. Now, where are we going to go from here? Table 5. Now, under table 5, this is where we're going to get the approximate areas. And that's what we want to utilize. We don't want to use approximate diameter. We want approximate area. And again, we don't want to use this one. Most of the time, it wouldn't be what we'd see on exam. It would be the square inches. Okay? All right, now, go down and find THWN. And just kind of keep on getting it until you see it. There it is. Now, here's a 10 conductor. All right, now you follow it over. We want the approximate area. And it's 0.0211. Write that down. 0.0211. You with me? I know you are. You're all with me. I get you. Okay. Now, we've got our values. We've got the 40% maximum fill, and we've got the size per the conductor. Okay, so now we don't need this anymore. We'll come back to me. Okay. Now, what are we going to do? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that 0.213 and I'm going to divide it by 0.0211. So I'm going to go 0.213 divided by 0.0211. And that is 10.09. This ain't a rounding thing, guys. I can't say, oh, I can put 11 in. No, I can only put 10 in there. That's it. So it works out the same way. Okay? That is your maximum. Maximum is 10.09, where there ain't no such thing as a 0.09 of a conductor. So that's it. 10. So there's 2 ways to do it. If they're all the same, now, what if I had 10s and 12s in there? Do all the 10s first, okay? And then do all the 12s next, okay? And do each one separately, and then add it together, and then take that, and work it out that way. So no different. You want to do one? Let's do it. Let's say it had the same 3/4. Now let's go bigger. Let's go 1 inch. I want to make sure you guys understand. Let's say I have a 1 inch trade size, or trade size 1 inch, EMT. And I've got 6 10s and 5 12s. In fact, let's not even pick the raceway yet. Let's make it hard. Forget the raceway. I've got 6 10s and 5 12s. Now, I can't use informative annex, can I? Can't. So what I'm going to do is do just what we did. We're going to go to the code. Now watch how I do this. I don't even need to go yet to EMT. I don't need to do that. I can go straight to my table 5. Okay? I can go straight to table 5. And so here I am at THWN. Say it's THHN, THWN. And so I had how many? I had 6 10s. Well, 10 is 0.0211. That's my 10s. And I have 12. I have 5 12s. And those are Oops. Daggone it. Those are, what is going on? Okay, those are 0.0133. So I'm going to write that down. 0.0133, and that is my 12s. Okay, what's the first thing I'm going to do? I'm going to take my value for my tens. You with me? I'm going to take that, which was 0.0211. I'm going to go 0.0211. Clear out my calculator, that would help. 0.0211 times, how many do we have? We had 6 tens, so it's times 6. And that is, I'm going to write that down. Let's go to 0.1266. And now I'm going to do my 12s. I've got 0.013 times, and I had 5 of those. 5. And that is going to be 0.065. So let me double check that math. 0.0211 times 6 is right, 0.1266. And 0.013 times 5 is 0.065. Okay, add the two together. So it's 0.1266 plus 0.065 equals 0.1916. Okay, 0.1916. Now, what I can do is go to table 4. And if I'm going to use EMT, okay, I just go up to it. Here, I'm over 2. So now I'm looking in this column, and I'm finding the size I need that can handle 0.1916. And it looks to me that it's still a 3/4, and that's the trade size, and that's how I would size the raceway. So again, if the code question on the exam gives you the raceway, then you go here and get your square inch value, okay? And then you go to each conductor and work it out. And that'll tell you, if they're all the same, you go to informative Annex C, it's a shortcut. That entire Annex C is based on not exceeding 40%. So that's the only it's good for. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, that's just kind of that was pretty good. That's pretty good. That was a lot of stuff, right? And again, I'm assuming that everybody's still there and we didn't drop anything because I hadn't had any comments. So in DJ 50, I think that was a long time ago. So anyway, let's look at some questions. Pull out my ugly. No, I don't use an ugly book. Sorry. I think you should learn to work without it. Use the code. All right. So anyway, we'll answer this question. And there you go. And there's your Annex C. Because they were all the exact same size, it made it easy. But I thought it would be good to show y'all how you do raceway fill. And it really, honest with you, it's just that simple. Okay? All right. We'll end on this one tonight. And I want you to all participate. The EDC permits electrical trade size 3/8 inch flexible metal conduit, FMC, to be used for tap conductors, fixture whips, to luminaires, provided the length of the FMC does not exceed 6 feet, 4 feet, 8 feet, 10 feet. Don't guess. Don't guess. And while you're looking this up, I'll tell you. Arturo, you're guessing because I don't see your code reference. The reason I don't use the ugly is for many states don't allow you to use it in exams. Some do, and go for it. But for me, I don't use it because I'm so familiar with using the code book. And everything that's in the code book, all the uglies book does is regurgitate what's in the code. It doesn't mean it's not a bad document. You know what I'm saying? Uglies book is great. In fact, hold on. There you go. I got an ugly. Now, granted, it's 2014 edition because I haven't gotten one since then. Doesn't mean it's a bad document. I do have, be honest with you, I'll take that back. I actually do have the uglies on my phone, and I prefer the phone version. See? There you go. It's got some great info in there as well. So keeping it, keep that in mind. Okay. All right. All right. So anyway, so let's answer this question and where we would look it up. So first of all, it's flexible metal conduit, although it is talking about luminaires. And so y'all aren't giving me code references. Okay. It's not about being more accurate. The rules, if you came in from the beginning, I want the answer and I want the code reference. We're kind of slacking on the rules a little bit here. So, all right. So again, two ways that people, so now I'm not even sure what that answer is. CFCV. Two is not even an option here. Now y'all are just playing now. So we're gonna end on this one tonight because I think everybody's getting tired. So FMC, we could look in FMC. A lot of people might even look under luminaires for this. Okay, some people will do that. See, I've got 6 foot and I got 4 foot. I got all kinds of answers here, which tells me some people aren't looking this up, and that defeats the whole purpose of why we study. You know what I'm saying? Because I see a bunch of different answers. Okay, all right. I'm gonna look it up. Just calm down. That's what I want. I want you to give me code references, but I got so many references up here now. 410s and 4348s and 4 feet and everything like that. So we're going to look it up. So logically, if I studied, I might go to, let me close some of these guys. Hold on here. Okay. So I might go here to immediately, let's say to FMC. And I'm in FMC, okay? And you'll see some links here. And you'll see some decent references here. So size-wise, so this is talking size. It says FMC is the trade size half shall not be used unless permitted in 348.22A1 through A5, which is where we're at. For the metric designator, trade size 3/8, okay? It says in length not exceeding 6 feet for any of the following. Okay, so there's our 6 foot reference. So we've got for utilization equipment is part of a listed assembly. For tap connections to luminaires as permitted in 110.17c, double reference there. Okay. And of course, we got a couple more here that are irrelevant. And then, of course, as part of a listed assembly to connect wired luminaire sections to blah, 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 blah. Okay, so I've got 6 foot here. So that's one of our answers. You're right. Those that were quoting it. I love teasing y'all guys, so don't take it personally because I'm just a teaser. My son will tell you that. That's why he doesn't talk to me anymore. But I want to look at 410.117c because this is part of our learning. Because I said, when you're looking at the root there, I could have pulled the answer potentially from 410, or I could go to the actual article for what we're in here. So I've got some options. I could have gone straight to FMC, or I could go to 410. So let's look and see what it says under 410.17c, because we got some of those references as well. And I'll show you that this might mean that we potentially, could have answered this question 2 ways. So here's your 417 tap. Let's read it. It says, tap conductors of the type suitable for temperature encounters shall be permitted to be run from a luminaire connection to the outlet box placed at least 1 foot from the luminaire. Good to know. Such tap conductors shall be a suitable raceway or type MC or AC cable of a length 18 inches, but not more than 6 feet in length. Okay? So now, very good. I just want to make us all work through it. Okay, so not exceeding is going to be the maximum length. Very good. So we're going to go with what you guys said. We're going to go with 6 feet. And there you go. You're absolutely right. Why do you think we went through the exercise, though? Why you think I kind of tease you, because I am just teasing, is why I say bring up the different possibilities to find the answer. Because the 6 feet was able to be obtained in multiple locations. So So we want to do it that way. It might not be Gustavo, but 3. Well, I don't know what 310.17 is because we were looking at 410. 117. I'm not sure about 410.17. I'm not sure we even said 410.17. It was 410.117, I believe. Anyway, could be wrong. All right, guys. Good stuff tonight. Y'all did a great job, everybody. Again, y'all endured my teasing you because, again, at the end of the day, look, the key for me is for you to really take a question. So if I'm going to end on something, I want to end on this. When you're studying for an exam and you're doing it for a purpose, and if you came in late, you didn't hear my little thing that I talked about at the beginning, I encourage you to go back and watch the beginning of this, just the first part of it, because there's a lot of little gems in there, but I study for a reason, okay? And when you study for a reason, you're going to have a lot of questions. Now, you probably paid good money for those questions, even if you got them free online. Get your value out of a question. So, people say to me all the time, Paul, how can you do that? You don't have enough time on an exam. I look them right in the eye and I say, you don't understand me. You don't understand what we do here. Because up until the last 2 weeks before your exam, I want you to take your time dissecting questions. Why? Because I'm selfish. I want you to be maneuvering through this code book. I want you to be looking at the index. I want you to be looking up references. I want you to be looking for possible other ways to get your answer. That's why we did the last one like that. We don't want to just say 6 feet, 4 foot, 10 foot. We want to know. And there's many ways to skin a cat, right? So again, there's ways to do it. I don't do fire alarm training. I don't do NFPA 72. I used to do it as a plans examiner and an engineer, but I don't teach any of that anymore. I'm sorry. So, I'm a code guy. I deal in the National Electrical Code. Now, if you want to email me a question about fire alarms, I'm more than happy to answer it for you or try to help you, but I don't even have the current documents for NFPA 72 anymore. I mean, I don't have them to study them. I just don't. So anyway, what I was at was take your time on the questions. Don't worry about the timing. Wait until you get to about 2 weeks out. And when I tell my students in the fast tracks, you have all those exams at the bottom. There's just over 800 of them at the bottom, right? That's the ones where you're going to, when you're using the programs or you're studying, you're looking up questions, wait until you get to about the last 2 weeks. Once you get to the last 2 weeks, then you can start putting the timer on your clock here, okay? And in Fast Track's program, the final exams already have timers on them, so you don't have to worry about it, but not the practice ones. But in the practice ones, set your timer and put it right there. I might do it right here. For example, what I might do is, again, last 2 weeks. Up until then, I don't want you stressing. I want you to take as much time as you want to dissect it. I mean, rip that question apart, okay? Now, once you do that, then you can go to what you have a timer, okay? And you set that timer for 2 minutes, okay? Set that timer for 2 minutes, right? And then you just hit start. And it'll go. And you have 2 minutes to find the answer. And when you get it, hit pause. And you can see what time you have left. Okay? There you go. That's how you do it. Okay? What does O say? One-hole straps? I don't think it matters which way you do a one-hole strap. I don't think the code cares which way you do it. No, I'm not going to take the time tonight to explain a 3-pole motor switch, but we're only a 2-pole 25 amp for AC. I'm going to save that for another time. I've already given you over 2 hours that I've taken away from my wife, and I'm going to go spend time with her. But if you want to email me that question, I will give you a detailed response and try to explain it the best I can. Again, if I go into trying to explain all that tonight, we're going to get longer than I want to get. And I said to her I would only do 2 hours tonight. But I appreciate your question. And again, people email me literally hundreds of questions. So email me your question, and I'm more than happy to discuss it with you. Okay? But the strap one's easy. I don't think the code cares. It's just like receptacle. Ground up, ground down. I don't think code doesn't care. The only place it cares is probably somewhere like Chicago, and they want the ground to be to the left or to the right. Now, safety-wise, why would you be better off having a ground up in a commercial application if you have a metal cover plate? Because if the metal cover plate comes off, it's going to hit the equipment ground. It's not going to it's not going to short between the ungrounded and grounded. So that's not in the code, but that's probably common sense. But as far as orientation, code doesn't care. Little things like that I don't mind. But that other one, it gets a little more detailed with the breakers. So, send me the email. You know my email address. I'll answer your question. You know I will. And I'll try to bring it the next time we study. And then I can just, when I got more time, but I don't. I appreciate all of you. You have no idea how I appreciate you. Again, if you find any value in these and you want to donate, again, whatever you can, I appreciate it. We will actually do a drawing, and I will announce the winner at our next Wednesday night. And so that you're going to have to, if you donated, you're going to have to come back next week. Actually, take that back. We're not going to have training next week. Remember, I'm on vacation all week. So we will miss next Wednesday. Okay. So if you donated anything, then I will do the drawing, and then I will announce it at the next one. Okay? Or if you donated, go on and send me an email and say, did I win? Did I win? Whatever. If you didn't donate, no problem. I still hope you get some value. Hope you get value out of what I do. Okay? Don't be a hater. Be a lover. Appreciate all of you. I really do. It's not about it's really thinking that I'm helping you folks get to the next level. I want to see you succeed. I sincerely want to see you succeed. I really do. And if you focus right, you study right, once you get your license, the studying doesn't stop. Like I said, I've spent 30 years in this thing. It's a passion for me. And hopefully you have that same passion, because you only get better. You work with your hands, you get better. You work with the code, you get more knowledgeable. All of it goes hand in hand. Okay? All right, folks. Appreciate all of you. Till next time, stay safe. God bless.